Hello, everybody, and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Monday, the 4th of March. I am ensconced in Brandon. My furniture doesn't arrive until Wednesday, so I am at the beautiful Holiday Inn recording this from my hotel room. So if you hear any weird noises, it's probably people walking back and forth in the hallway. I just wanted to pick up where I left off on Friday. Friday, I mentioned my plan was to go to Neepawa to the United Anglican Shared Ministry there, to my first unofficial parish visit as the bishop-elect, but also to participate or to witness a World Day of Prayer celebration where we were remembering and praying for Palestine. And I found out this morning, I'm recording this on Saturday. I found out this morning that on the very day when the world was praying for Palestine, there were people killed who were trying to get food aid in Gaza. There's something very unsettling about that the day that the world came together and for 24 hours we were praying for Palestine and people in Palestine were being killed. Palestinians were being shot because these unarmed people who were trying to gather food aid because of what is happening to them because of Hamas and the Israelis, they simply wanted help. And many were shot, others were hurt and injured, and I believe some killed because they were trampled by the crowd that was trying to flee, and they were hit by aid vehicles that were trying to get out of there before they were killed as well. And the justification was that these unarmed people were attacking, apparently, the well-armed Israeli forces. Do with that what you will. What I have to say is this is wrong. There is no justification for another person taking another person's life, an innocent person's life. I understand that Hamas is wrong. It's horrendous what they have done and what they continue to do. But just as I am a Canadian, and that does not mean that any particular individual person who takes it upon themselves to own power when they make mistakes or do something wrong in the name of my country or in the name of my province, that does not mean that I am complicit in that. The only way I would be complicit is if I had voted for them or somehow supported them in taking over that power. We are blessed in Canada that at this time we don't have people who have illegally taken power. We do not have terrorist groups who are terrorizing us in our name, saying that they speak for all Canadians. Now, I would argue that there are some politicians who are getting awfully close to the mark, but we don't have that particular problem in this country, thanks be to God. And in Palestine, in Gaza, in the places where Palestinians and Israelis live, Hamas has done just that. They have spoken out as if they are the supreme authority and speaking on behalf of every Palestinian, and it seems that the world has believed them. I don't know about you, but if you think about the women that we prayed for, the women who created the World Day of Prayer, some of you might not know this, but apparently the women who were chosen, the Palestine was chosen 7 years ago in 2017 to be the country that would be prayed for at 2024's World Day of Prayer. And no one knew 7 years ago what was going to happen in 2023. On October 7th, 2023. No one knew that. That was divine intervention, I don't know. But whatever the powers that be at the Women's International, it's WIC, WICC, I can't off the top of my head remember what it stands for. They chose Palestine, and then about 4 or 5 years ago, they chose the women who would write the liturgy, who would do the work of pulling together the resources and the liturgy for the World Day of Prayer. And that was long before any of this happened. And yesterday, when we were praying for those very people, for the Christians in Palestine, indeed for all of the people, the Jews, the Muslims, the Christians, those who don't believe anything, because there's always people like that, which is part of the beauty of our world, who are Palestinian themselves, they did not choose this. Yes, some people may have chosen to follow Hamas, but Hamas speaks for every single Palestinian about the same way that Danielle Smith spoke for me as an Albertan. She didn't. I did not vote for her. I do not agree with anything that she has chosen to do. I would never support her in that. And yet, because I was an Albertan, people assumed that that is what I believed in. No more so than every Palestinian believes in what Hamas is doing. Regardless of where you stand on Israel and Palestine, it is worth the effort to do some research and look not at the political history, but look at the history of the people. I remember reading a couple of years ago when we were in our first house in Wainwright, I remember reading a book about Bethany and about a Palestinian family. And reading it, it was not meant to be, it was written prior to a lot of the big things. It was written I think it was written in the 50s. Might have been written earlier than 1948, maybe, or early 1950s. And it was not a political thing. It was an autobiography of a gentleman who lived there and talked about his growing up years and what life was like as a Palestinian when the world determined that Israel would exist where he lived. What it was like for him to watch his family begin to fall apart because jobs and homes that they had known their whole lives were taken away from them. He didn't get much he got in a little bit into the devastation that happened and the killing and things like that, but he didn't into much. But some of the statements and some of the truth that was told Friday at the World Day of Prayer, some of the stories that were shared of the three women who contributed their stories to the storytelling, the truth telling about what it was like to be what it is like to be a Christian Palestinian in this day and age, were chilling. They're not the stories we hear about when we hear people talking about the glorious creation of Israel and how wonderful it was. It wasn't. And now we see the things that the Israelis hated, the fact that the Jewish people were turfed from country to country and persecuted and killed. Now we see the same thing happening to people that they have deemed are not as good as them. They have no right to exist there. Blame it on Hamas. But when you open fire on innocent people trying to find food, or when you walk into a place where you tell them you need to leave this place and go here because it's safer there, that will be the place where you can find refuge, and then you proceed to move in there and tell them, no, now you can't be safe here either. At what point do we recognize that this is not right? Even if we recognized, even if we somehow came to some conclusion, false as it might be, that it's okay for adults to be held responsible for a terrorist act when they had nothing to do with it. What child picked up a gun? What infant? What pregnant woman? What child who was born in the midst of this deserves to be treated like this? Deserves to lose their life? It's not right. We know better. We are a world that can put a man on the moon, and we can build the International Space Station. We have technology to go into the most dry places where the water that exists is dirty, and create fresh wells so that people don't have to walk miles to get clean water. If we can do that, we can change this world. We can stop war. We can stop people from hating. But it has to begin somewhere. And I'm not sure how to do that. But I do know that it has to begin with prayer. And it has to begin with all over the world, people participating in the World Day of Prayer next year. And maybe it needs to happen not just on the first Friday in March, but every Friday or every day of the week. I don't know where to start to bring peace to Israel and Palestine and the Middle East. But if we all put our heads together, if we all prayed together, if we all did our small part to not spread hate, but to spread love, maybe we could make some inroads. Please pray for Palestine today. Please pray for all those children who no longer have parents. Please pray for all those parents who no longer have children. Pray that there might be a peace, that there may indeed be a two-state solution, that people who have power in the world will come to their senses and realize that warmongering and hate-mongering do not do any good for them or anyone else. Please pray for peace. Have a great day. God bless you. Thanks for hanging out with me at Church at Home. I'll see you again tomorrow.